Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the greatest recordings ever. And today we're talking about a piece that I detested for the longest period of time. I'm talking about Richard Strauss's Death and Transfiguration, Tod und Verklärung. Well, first of all, why? What are all the reasons to dislike this piece? Well, first of all, the title. I mean, come on. Are you really serious? That's number one. I just find things that indulge in that sort of pseudo spirituality kind of off-putting on their face. I really do. That's the first thing. The second thing is it sounds like a big, long, slow movement with clogged up, fast interludes. That's number two. Number three. The big tune itself struck me as kind of cloying harmonically. Do, 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 wada. Love the octave displacement. I do. Yada. And then it goes, yada. It's like, oh, God, yick. So that bugged me. I mean, what the piece was doing was very obvious. I mean, the whole thing is a prelude to a tune that finally emerges in its entirety at the very end. And then, of course, it has the harps rippling and the heavenly falderall. And I mean, it really just pissed me off. Then, so there's that. And then I finally had an opportunity to play the thing, actually, in an orchestra. Oh, what excitement that was. I was the tam-tamist, because aside from timpani, the tam-tam is the only thing that it uses. Now, at the time, I have to confess, I didn't even realize it had a tam-tam, because most of the recordings that you hear, you don't hear it. I mean, it's at the point of death, when the soul goes up like a soap bubble. Poof! And there's a mezzo forte. And then there are like 100 tam-tam beats on half notes after that in a diminuendo, and then it's very soft. It does its thing, and you don't hear it anymore. I mean, you never hear the whole part, ever. You just don't. And some performances, even Kempe, a real texture and sound guy, you heard nothing. It's as if it just doesn't exist. I didn't know. So here I am sitting there looking at the tam-tam part. Oh, that's interesting. I've never heard that before in the 150 recordings of it that I have. Some of them you do. Toscanini, yes, you hear it. There are some others where you actually do, and it's fairly nice. Ormandy, you do, believe it or not. So anyway, there was that too. Then I got the score because I had to play the part. And normally when I have to play a part, I get a score and I look at the score so I can see what's going on. And, and when I have to come in and all of that stuff. Because I didn't know that there was even a tam-tam part there. And it comes with a poem. Yes, a poem about death and transfiguration, a soggy, horrid German poem. Oh, that made me hate it even more. Never mind the fact that the actual poem really has nothing to do with what the music is doing. I mean, it doesn't follow the course of the music in any particular way. So there's that. And that was another thing. So I played the thing and played it better than the tam-tam part has ever been done. And I damn sure did it more audibly than it's ever been done. I can tell you that. But eventually, I did the logical thing. I mean, I wrote a book about Richard Strauss and his tone poems and other works. And that forced me to actually really come to grips with it. And it turned out I think it's marvelous. It's a beautiful work. It's absolutely gorgeous. And formally very, very clever, because one of the things I realized about this when I heard it in the context of all the other tone poems is that Strauss writes in large sonata forms, but his trick in his symphonic poems is moving the development section to different places. It's the battle in Ein Heldenleben. It's the big storm scene in Alpine Symphony. It's the central imbroglio in Don Juan and Death and Transfiguration. Yes, it's an introduction and an allegro, and there's this big development section that's sort of in the middle, but there's a truncated recapitulation because the big tune is going to emerge. And so the culmination of the development section, of course, is the end, when the big tune finally shows up in all of its faux sanctimonious glory. And so for faux sanctimoniosity, or whatever you want to call that, well, nobody was better. Nobody was better for doing fake spirituality than Herbert von Karajan. He was the king of fake spirituality. And he recorded Death and Transfiguration, I think 4 or 5 times at least. Maybe more. Who knows? Just a whole bunch of times. It was one of his signature pieces because it was full of that sort of, like I said, that transfigurational stuff that he really did well. I mean, he really did. I mean, it was as phony as a $3 bill, but he really sold the product, no question about it. And his last recording of Death and Transfiguration is unquestionably his greatest. It really is. I mean, he did it very well, always. But this last one, this digital one, now in the cleaned up Karajan Gold edition with the sound kind of fixed, wow. I mean, it's coupled with a dreadful Ein Heldenleben on this particular disc. It's a pity. But the Death and Transfiguration, I mean, the intensity of the Transfiguration part and the tam-tam. Yeah, well, finally, he really lets him play it. I mean, it's amazing. In the Berlin Philharmonic, where you never hear these things. Yes, he lets it go. He lets it go completely. And the whole thing is just the most uninhibited outpouring, a summation of everything that made the man a great conductor and an absolutely odious. Well, that's not fair. That's not fair. I'm just joking. It's an extraordinary performance. It really is. Its sound is just pulverizing. It'll push you through the back of your room and knock you flat. It's great. It's just great. And it's certainly one of the greatest recordings ever because it all just happens. Everything goes right. And that's rare when that happens. It's rare. Even with a perfectionist like Karajan, it was rare. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.